Senior Council Member Sixtel's primary observation chamber aboard the Galactic Council vessel Truth Seeker. The holoscreen flickered with static as the scout ship's transmission cut through subspace. Sixtel's crystalline appendages trembled as she watched the footage for the third time. Her voice, usually a melodic hum, cracked with disbelief. "Play it again," she ordered, "and magnify Sector 4. The image expanded, showing a human figure in what the species called a wetsuit. Dr. Amanda Brooks, according to the data tags, was leading a marine research team off the coast of what humans designated as Hawaii. The scientist moved through the water with casual grace, surrounded by the deadly substance that had driven most spacefaring races to develop complex hydrophobic shield technology. "Impossible," muttered First Science Officer Correx, his protective scales bristling. No species could survive direct contact with such large quantities of dihydrogen monoxide, the corrosive effects alone. And yet, Sixtel interrupted, "They do more than survive." She gestured to another screen, where children splashed in something called a swimming pool. They teach their young to move through it. They immerse themselves for recreation. The chamber fell silent as the footage continued. Dr. Brooks and her team had descended to what the sensors indicated was nearly 100 meters below the surface. The pressure at such depths should have been catastrophic, yet the humans moved with practiced efficiency, setting up research equipment around a coral reef. The initial scout report listed them as a pre-FTL species, Kirk said, moving closer to the display. "Primitive by our standards." And yet, he trailed off as the footage showed Dr. Brooks taking a device called a water sample using nothing but a clear cylinder. Sixtel's secondary processing node pulsed with anxiety. "Access the historical archives," she commanded. "Search for any species with similar hydrotolerance." The AI complied, its response immediate and troubling. No records found of existing spacefaring species with comparable water integration. Historical references to water-based technologies are heavily redacted. Access requires alpha-level clearance. That made Sixtel's third heart skip a beat. Alpha-level clearance was reserved for information that could destabilize the galactic order. She was about to request emergency access when a new alert flashed across her console. "Council member," the ship's AI announced, "additional footage from Scout Ship 7 has arrived. Priority 1 classification." The new images made her previous concerns seem trivial. A human military vessel, a submarine according to the translation matrix, was launching smaller craft underwater. The depth readings were beyond anything their scientists had thought possible for a pre-FTL race. "By the first light," Crux whispered, his scales now a pale shade of terror. "They've built entire vessels to travel through it. They're not just tolerating water, they're mastering it." Sixtel made a decision that would change the course of galactic history. "Prepare a first contact package," she ordered, "and get me direct access to the High Council. They need to see this immediately." As her staff scrambled to comply, she watched Dr. Brooks surface from her dive, remove her breathing apparatus, and do something that sent shivers through all three of Sixtel's hearts. The human smiled, wiped water from her face with a bare hand, and drank from a container filled with the same substance she'd been swimming through. "Great stars above," Sixtel murmured. "What have we found?" The answer would shake the foundations of everything the Council thought they knew about survival, evolution, and the true history of their own species' journey to the stars. United Nations Extraterrestrial Reception Center, Geneva, Switzerland. Lieutenant James Deep Blue Morrison adjusted his dress blues and watched the alien delegation's ship descend through Earth's atmosphere. Their vessel gleamed like polished obsidian, wrapped in what his technical team had identified as an advanced hydrophobic shield. "Remember," Admiral Chen's voice crackled through his earpiece, "no sudden movements. Their cultural brief suggests they're extremely cautious around any form of liquid. Morrison suppressed a smile. The brief had been fascinating reading. An entire spacefaring civilization that treated water like it was nuclear waste. He'd had to triple-check that it wasn't some elaborate joke. The ship landed with perfect precision on the specially constructed dry platform. A shimmer of energy rippled around it, and Morrison's atmospheric sensors registered zero humidity within a 10-meter radius. Senior Council member Zixtal emerged first, her crystalline form encased in what looked like liquid metal. Behind her, 5 other alien species represented the Galactic Council, each in their own variation of environmental suits. Everything was going according to protocol until the first drop fell. Nobody had checked the weather forecast. The light drizzle started just as Zixtal reached the midpoint of the reception area. Her sensor arrays flared bright purple, and the universal translator caught what sounded like an alien expletive. "By the void. We're under attack." One of the delegates screamed, their protective field flaring to maximum power. Morrison stepped forward, hands raised. "Honored delegates, this is just a light spring shower. It's perfectly natural and—" He never finished the sentence. The entire delegation had backed up against their ship, environmental shields humming at full power. One of the smaller aliens, a being that looked like a collection of floating gas bubbles, had actually retreated inside their suit's secondary containment layer. "You?" Zixtal's translator crackled with static. "You allow this deadly precipitation to fall freely on your centers of civilization." Morrison felt a drop hit his cheek and casually wiped it away. The action caused several delegates to emit high-pitched sounds his translator couldn't process. "Perhaps," he said carefully, "we should continue this inside. We have a fully climate-controlled facility, and I'd be happy to explain Earth's water cycle over refreshments." They made it to the reception hall, but the situation only got more interesting. Morrison had forgotten about the decorative fountain in the center of the room. 3 delegates refused to enter until it was drained and sanitized. Then came the real crisis. Following standard diplomatic protocol, Morrison lifted a glass of water in a traditional Earth welcome gesture. "To new friendships and understanding between our peoples." The translator caught at least 4 different variations of "he's going to die" before he took a sip. Zixtal's central core actually changed color. "Lieutenant Morrison, are you consuming raw dihydrogen monoxide?" "Just water," he said, then immediately regretted his casual tone, as 2 of the smaller delegates fainted dead away. Their environmental suits automatically inflated to break their fall. The situation reached its peak when Dr. Patricia Reynolds, the team's xenobiologist, decided to clear up the confusion. She pulled up a holographic display of human anatomy. "You see," she explained cheerfully, "humans are actually composed of approximately 60% water. Our cells." She never got to finish. The entire diplomatic corps of the Galactic Council backed away in horror. Zixtal's crystalline form had taken on a pale, almost transparent hue. "You're filled with it." Her translator unable to fully convey the mix of terror and fascination in her voice. "Your species is primarily composed of the very substance that dissolves most known forms of matter." Morrison looked at the glass in his hand, then at the terrified aliens, and made a command decision. "Admiral," he vocalized into his comm unit, "I think we're going to need a complete revision of the first contact protocols. And maybe some towels." Mariana Trench Research Station, Pacific Ocean, 19,000 feet below sea level. Dr. Catherine Kate Martins pressed her hand against the reinforced viewport of the Deep Sea Research Station, watching the ROV's lights illuminate something that shouldn't exist. The alien archaeological team hovering above in their ship had been broadcasting the same message for hours: "Ascend immediately. The depths are not meant for exploration." "They're really freaking out up there," her research partner, Dr. Thomas Walker, said, as he adjusted the ROV's scanning array. "You'd think we were disturbing ancient burial grounds or something." Kate's eyes narrowed as the ROV's lights revealed more of the structure before them. "Maybe we are, Tom. Those markings, they're identical to the patterns on Sixtel's ceremonial armor." The discovery had started 3 days ago, when their new alien-enhanced sonar had detected geometric anomalies in the trench wall. What they'd found was impossible: a perfectly preserved city under nearly 6,000 meters of water. "Bringing ROV-3 around the eastern quarter now," Tom announced, his fingers dancing across the holographic controls. "You're going to want to see this, Kate." The screen lit up with new images that made Kate's heart race. A massive archway, covered in luminescent crystals, that still glowed after what must have been millennia underwater. But it was the carved figures that made her grab for the communications array. "Council Member Sixtel," she transmitted, knowing the alien leader was watching from above. "These carvings, they show your people swimming, without protection." The response came after a long pause, Sixtel's usually confident voice trembling. "What you have found was never meant to be found, Dr. Martinez. Those are not my people. They cannot be." But they were. Each new scan revealed more evidence. An entire civilization that had once lived in harmony with the ocean. The crystal beings in the carvings moved through water as naturally as humans did. Their cities built to embrace the sea rather than shield against it. "Tom, are you seeing this?" Kate asked, as they guided the ROV through what appeared to be an ancient learning center. "These look like training pools. They were teaching their young to swim, just like we do." The alien vessel above them suddenly broadcast on all frequencies. "You will cease exploration immediately. This site is now under council quarantine." Kate ignored them, her attention fixed on a new chamber the ROV had just entered. The walls were covered in text, and thanks to the universal translator, she could read them. "The great change comes," she read aloud. "We must adapt or perish. The waters that gave us life must be forgotten." "Tom, this isn't just a city. It's a record of why they left the oceans." A new voice cut through the communications channel, the council's chief historian, who had apparently been monitoring their transmissions. "Dr. Martinez, you are disturbing historical facts that could destabilize the entire galactic order. Our evolution beyond water dependence was a natural progression." "Natural," Kate scoffed, pointing to a series of images that showed crystal beings undergoing some kind of transformation. "This looks more like forced genetic modification. You didn't evolve away from water. You were made to fear it." The silence that followed was deafening. Eventually, Sixtel spoke again, her voice heavy with the weight of revolution. "The council archives, the sealed records about water worlds. We have been living a lie for generations." Kate watched as the ROV's lights illuminated a final chamber, where a massive holographic matrix had somehow survived the centuries. As it activated, responding to their presence, she realized they'd found something far more important than an ancient city. "Council member," she said softly, "I think it's time your people remembered who they used to be. The question is, what made them forget in the first place?" The answer, she suspected, would either unite their species or tear the galaxy apart. Titan Research Station Alpha, Saturn's largest moon. Technical Commander Michael "Buck" Reynolds stared through the reinforced viewport at Titan's methane sea, his expression grim. The alien research station had suffered catastrophic damage. Its lower levels, now flooded with liquid hydrocarbons at -179 degrees Celsius. "They said it couldn't be done," his executive officer, Rachel Torres, muttered as she checked the seals on her modified diving suit. "No species has ever attempted a rescue in liquid methane." Buck adjusted the controls on his thermal regulation system. "Yeah, well, they never met anyone from the U.S. Navy Deep Submergence Unit. How many people are trapped down there? 12 alien researchers, including 3 council scientists. Their emergency bubbles will only last another 4 hours. The observation deck was crowded with alien representatives, all watching in horror as the human rescue team prepared to do what they considered impossible. Even Zixtal had arrived to witness what she called either a miracle or a tragedy. "Team, listen up," Buck called over the command channel. "This isn't water, but the principles are the same. We've trained for liquid nitrogen. This is just a little colder and a lot deeper. Standard stack formation. Watch your buddies back." The modified diving bell descended through the orange haze of Titan's atmosphere. Inside, Buck and his team of 4 checked their equipment one last time. The suits were based on deep-sea designs, but heavily modified for the extreme cold and different liquid dynamics of methane. "First team, you're clear for deployment," Control announced. "May Neptune watch over you all." Buck led the way, pushing through the airlock and into the alien sea. The liquid methane was different from water, less resistant, strange currents, different buoyancy. But his team had trained for this, modifying their swimming techniques through countless simulations. "Contact with structure," he reported, his hands finding the twisted metal of the research station's outer hull, beginning cut-through procedures. Above them, the alien observers watched in stunned silence as humans moved through an environment they considered absolutely lethal. The rescue team's helmet cameras broadcasted every movement to the observation deck. "Impossible," one of the council scientists muttered. "Their thermal management, their movement through liquid, it defies everything we know about biological limitations." The first breach point revealed something unexpected. Behind the station's walls, strange geometric patterns pulsed with an inner light. The same patterns Dr. Martinez had found in the underwater ruins on Earth. "Command, are you seeing this?" Buck transmitted, his light illuminating more of the ancient technology. "These weren't added by the current station. They're part of something much older. Focus on the rescue." Zixtal's voice cut through the channel. "What you found? It must wait." But as they pushed deeper into the station, following emergency beacons to the trapped researchers, the evidence became undeniable. This wasn't just a research station. It had been built on top of something ancient, something that had been here long before any of them. The rescue itself became a dance between present and past. Each section they cut through revealed more of the hidden structure, and the alien researchers they saved stared at their surroundings with new understanding. "The patterns," one of them whispered through the emergency breather. "They're the same as the water temples. Our ancestors, they were here too." Buck's team had almost reached the final group when their sensors detected something massive moving through the methane sea behind them. Something that, according to all their instruments, shouldn't exist in these conditions. "Command," Buck transmitted, his voice steady despite the growing dread. "We're not alone down here, and whatever's moving through these seas, it's been here a very, very long time." The ancient mystery of why the galaxy feared water was about to reveal itself, and humanity's mastery of liquid environments might be the only thing standing between civilization and a truth too terrible to face. U.S. Nautilus Aya, classified location in the Pacific Ocean. Commander Jack Thompson studied the holographic display floating above the submarine's Advanced Combat Information Center. The images from Titan played alongside footage from Dr. Martinez's deep-sea discovery, patterns shifting and aligning in ways that made his spine tingle. "Play that last sequence again," he ordered. His SEAL team gathered around the display. "Focus on the movement patterns of whatever that thing was in Titan's methane sea." Lieutenant Sarah Cooper, their xenobiologist, pointed to the shadowy mass that had stalked Buck's rescue team. "The liquid dynamics are nearly identical to what we're seeing in these deep ocean trenches. Something's down there, swimming through both environments like they're the same thing." The Nautilus II had been tracking similar anomalies for weeks now. strange movements in Earth's deepest trenches, always just at the edge of their most advanced sensors. "Sir," Communications Officer Rodriguez called out, "we're getting a priority message from Council Member Sixtall. She's requesting immediate extraction. Says she's being hunted." Thompson's team moved with practiced efficiency, the submarine changing course before he'd even given the order. They found Sixtall's personal shuttle half-submerged in the Pacific, its hull breached by something that had torn through advanced alien metal like paper. "Get her out of there," Thompson ordered, leading the rescue team himself. They found the council member in an emergency pod, her crystalline form flickering with weak energy. "They don't want you to know," she gasped once they had her safely aboard. "The entity, the one that made us fear the water, it's still here, still watching." The medical bay's screen showed Sixtall's energy signature fading. Whatever had attacked her had done more than physical damage. "The great change," she continued, her voice growing weaker. "It wasn't evolution. It wasn't progress. It was submission. Something came from the depths, something ancient. It gave us a choice: abandon the seas or face extinction." Thompson leaned forward. Why? What were they afraid of? Not they. It. One entity, spread across every liquid world. We were becoming too strong, too adapted to living in its domain. So her voice cracked. It changed us. Made us fear what we once loved. But your people, you humans, the entire submarine shuddered, emergency alerts blaring. Multiple contacts. The sonar officer shouted. Massive objects moving through the water, surrounding us on all sides. Thompson rushed back to the CIC, watching as the tactical display lit up with dozens of massive signatures. They moved like nothing he'd ever seen, defying the laws of hydrodynamics. "Now you know," Sixtall's voice came through the internal comms. "Why the galaxy fears water. It was never about the liquid itself. It was about what lives within it, what has always lived within it." The submarine's external cameras captured something that would haunt Thompson's dreams forever. Vast, shifting forms made of what looked like living crystal, similar to Sixtall's people but twisted wrong. They moved through the water like it was part of them, their bodies refracting light in impossible ways. "Battle stations," Thompson ordered, his voice steady despite the terror trying to claw its way up his spine. "All hands prepare for deep-sea combat. Whatever these things are, they don't own our oceans. Not anymore." As the Nautilus EU's advanced weapons systems came online, Thompson realized they were fighting more than just ancient aliens. They were fighting for the right to master their own waters, to keep what made humans unique in the galaxy. And somewhere in the depths, the entity that had shaped galactic history prepared to face something it had never encountered before. A species that refused to fear the deep. Advanced Deep-Sea Research Facility, Challenger Deep Innovation Center. Dr. Rebecca Reef Anderson's laboratory hummed with energy as the new prototype came online. The quantum computer's core, suspended in a chamber of pressurized water, glowed with an otherworldly blue light. Around her, both human and alien scientists watched in anticipation. "The principles are simple," she explained, her hands dancing across the holographic controls. "We've been approaching space travel all wrong. The deep ocean already solved the problems of pressure, temperature management, and energy distribution billions of years ago." The alien engineers flinched as she adjusted the water flow, but their fear was gradually being replaced by fascination. Especially after the events in the Pacific, the Council could no longer deny humanity's unique understanding of liquid dynamics. "Watch this," Rebecca said, initiating the test sequence. The computer's processing core, based on patterns found in both the Mariana Trench ruins and the Titan station, began to pulse with increasing power. "Impossible," Chief Engineer Crickstall whispered, his sensors extended toward the device. "The computing power. It's orders of magnitude beyond our most advanced systems. Rebecca smiled. Water isn't just a medium for the computer. It's part of the computing process itself. The molecules' quantum states, the pressure dynamics, even the trace minerals. They're all part of the calculation matrix. The laboratory's main screen displayed the results. Calculations that would take traditional quantum computers years were being completed in minutes. But that wasn't the most remarkable part. Now for the real breakthrough, Rebecca announced, pressing her palm against a bioscanner. The entire system pulsed, and suddenly the holographic display showed something that made the alien scientists step back in shock. A perfect replica of the entity's crystal forms, rotating in 3 dimensions. "We've been studying the wrong things," she explained. "Those beings in the deep, they're not just living in the water. They're using it as a computing medium, a way to extend their consciousness through every ocean, every liquid world." The data streamed across multiple screens, each showing different aspects of the entity's structure. Their bodies are like living processors, and the oceans are their computer networks. That's why they forced other species away from water, to prevent them from discovering this technology. One of the alien scientists, a young crystal being named Lix, moved closer to the display. Unlike the others, she showed more curiosity than fear. This knowledge, it could revolutionize everything. But the entity won't be able to stop us this time, Rebecca interrupted, bringing up new schematics. Because we've already built something they never expected. A ship that uses these same principles. The hologram shifted to show a massive vessel unlike anything ever constructed. Its hull was designed to channel water flow like a living thing. Its systems integrated with liquid computing cores that could process information through the medium of water itself. "The U.S. Leviathan," she said proudly. "The first of her kind. A ship that can navigate both space and ocean with equal ease, using water not just as a shield or support system, but as part of its very intelligence." The alien scientists murmured among themselves, their fear warring with their instinctive recognition of something their species had once known. The water technology felt familiar, right, despite generations of engineered hydrophobia. "But there's one more thing," Rebecca said, her expression growing serious. "During our tests, we detected something. Signals, coming through the ocean itself. The entity isn't just one being. It's a network. And now we can finally understand what it's saying." She pressed another control, and the laboratory filled with a sound that none of them would ever forget. The voice of the deep, speaking for the first time in millions of years. Combined Fleet Command Center, beneath the Pacific Ocean. Admiral Lizef Tsunami. Parker watched as the holographic globe lit up with hundreds of red warning indicators. The hydrophobic Empire's fleet had emerged from hyperspace, their massive ships positioning themselves above every major ocean on Earth. "They're deploying the vaporization arrays," Lieutenant Commander Marcus Chen reported, his fingers flying over the tactical display, targeting all major bodies of water simultaneously. Lisa's expression remained calm, even as the enemy's intent became clear. They meant to strip Earth of its oceans, to turn humanity's greatest strength into a memory. But they'd forgotten one critical detail. Humans had been preparing for this fight since the day they first learned to swim. "Initialize Operation Deep Strike," she ordered. "All submarine carriers move to combat positions. Activate the Leviathan network." Across the globe, the ocean itself seemed to come alive. Hundreds of advanced submarines, their designs enhanced by Dr. Anderson's water computing technology, emerged from hidden depths. Each vessel was a perfect fusion of human innovation and the ancient water master's knowledge. "Admiral," a voice called out. "Lix, the young crystal being who'd chosen to side with Earth. The entity's network is responding to the attack. It's trying to interface with our systems." Lisa nodded. They'd expected this. Let it in, but through the filtered channels only. Just like we practiced. The command center's screens flickered as the entity's consciousness brushed against their network. Unlike the hostile force it had once been, the ancient intelligence now recognized something in humanity's approach to water mastery. A balance it had forgotten was possible. Above, the Hydrophotic Empire's ships began their attack. Massive energy beams struck the ocean's surface, attempting to break the molecular bonds of Earth's waters. But they found something waiting for them. "Activate the pressure shields," Lisa commanded. The water around each enemy beam suddenly crystallized, forming structures that looked suspiciously like the ancient ruins found in the Mariana Trench. The enemy's energy dissipated harmlessly, absorbed and redirected by technology that was both incredibly ancient and thoroughly modern. "Ma'am, Carrier Group 7 reports ready," Marcus announced. "Marine combat teams are deployed, and they're swimming through the shields. The enemy can't track them." Lisa allowed herself a small smile. The sight of Navy SEALs and Marine raiders moving through supposedly vaporized zones was throwing the enemy into chaos. Their sensors, designed to detect ships and energy weapons, were useless against the most basic form of water mastery: the human swimmer. "Launch the Leviathan," she ordered. The massive ship, humanity's greatest achievement in water-based technology, rose from its deep ocean berth. It tall, alive with flowing patterns of light, seemed to merge with the ocean around it. The enemy fleet's commander finally appeared on their communication screen, his protection suit unable to hide his horror. "What are you? How can you command both the waters and the entity's power?" "We never commanded either," Lisa replied, watching as human forces systematically disable the enemy fleet. "We learned to work with them. Water isn't a force to be controlled. It's a partner in evolution. Something your people once knew, before fear made you forget." The battle turned decisively as the Leviathan demonstrated its power. The ship, connected to Earth's oceans through the entity's ancient network, became a focal point for something the galaxy had never seen: the perfect union of human innovation, ancient knowledge, and the living force of Earth's waters. As the enemy fleet retreated in disarray, Lisa received one final message, not from the defeated forces, but from the entity itself, its thoughts now clear through their shared connection. At last, it communicated: "A species that understands. The waters were never meant to be conquered or feared. They were meant to be a bridge between worlds. And now, perhaps, they can be again." Aquarius Prime, 500 light-years from Earth. Captain Daniel Mariner Hayes stood at the helm of the U.S. Leviathan II, watching as the water world's 3 moons cast rippling reflections across the planet's endless ocean. Behind him, a mixed crew of humans and aliens worked in perfect harmony, their former fear of water now replaced by cautious fascination. "Final checks complete, Captain," reported First Officer Lix, her crystalline form now comfortable near the bridge's water cooling systems. "The colony pods are ready for descent. Though I still find it remarkable that humans choose to build their first extrasolar settlement underwater." Daniel smiled. "Where better to start? After all, it's what brought our species together." In the year since Earth's defense against the Hydrophotic Empire, everything had changed. The entity, now understanding that humanity represented a balance it had long sought, had shared its network of water worlds throughout the galaxy. Each one held secrets, technologies, and possibilities that had been hidden for millions of years. "Deep-sea colony units report ready," Lieutenant Maria Reeves announced from her station. "Dr. Anderson's water computing cores are online, and, sir, we're detecting something in the Northern Ocean. Something big." The main screen shifted to show a massive shape moving through Aquarius Prime's depths. But unlike their first encounters with such beings, This one approached with open communication signals. "Greetings, children of Earth." The entity's thoughts flowed through their water-based communications array. "Welcome to the first of many worlds ready to remember their true nature." The colony deployment began with precision born from generations of ocean engineering. Massive structures, designed to work with the planet's natural currents, descended into the alien sea. They carried the first wave of human and allied alien scientists, explorers, and pioneers. Captain Lix called out, her sensors detecting something extraordinary. "The local entity is sharing historical data through the water network. This planet, it was once like my homeworld before the Great Change. There are cities down there, preserved in the deep." Daniel nodded, already seeing the implications. Not ruins to study this time, but cities to rebuild. To Reinhabit, he turned to his communications officer. "Send word to Earth. Tell them we're going to need more marine archaeologists." The next few hours were a symphony of coordination as the colony took shape. Human divers, working alongside reformed crystal beings, began exploring the ancient structures. The entity's network served as both guide and guardian, its vast intelligence finally finding partners who could help restore balance to the galaxy's oceans. "Message from Earth Command," Maria announced. "The Council has officially recognized humanity's role as guardians of the water worlds. We're to begin training programs for all species wishing to reconnect with their aquatic heritage." Daniel watched as a group of crystal being children, part of the new generation born without fear of water, took their first supervised swim in one of the colony's training pools. Their joy, transmitted through the water computing network, was palpable. "You know what this means," Captain Lix said, her own form resonating with the historic moment. "Every water world we restore, every species that remembers its connection to the oceans, becomes another bridge between stars," Daniel finished. The entity was right. Water isn't just about mastery or control. It's about connection. As the colony's lights came online, illuminating the alien ocean around them, the entity shared one final message through the network. "The Great Dive has begun. A journey not of conquest, but of return. And this time, no one needs to face the deep alone." The waters of Aquarius Prime glowed with bioluminescence, a welcome light for a galaxy finally ready to remember that its oceans were never meant to be feared, but to be a home for all who dared to take the plunge.